Hi there, welcome to Kitty Weedy Papercraft. In this video, I am going to show you how to turn these little wool felt balls into acorn charms. And at the end, I'm going to show you how you can add your charms to a tassel and make a tassel for your journals or your planners. So there is a supply list in the description box below. So I put a link to a source for all of these supplies right on that list for you to check out. But what you need are wool felt balls that are 2 centimeters in size. And of course you can vary the size a little bit, but this is kind of like the standard size felt ball. I have not found these in stores, so you could use Pom Poms that are about, like a 1-inch size Pom Pom that you find at like Michael's or Joann, the acrylic Pom Poms. Those would work well in this craft also. But these wool ones I find on Etsy, and they come in all different kind of colors. You can find neutral ones, but you can find these dyed ones also. So you need just a bunch of those, however many that you want to make. They usually come in packs, same with the Acorn Caps. They come in packs of like 25 or 50, so just kind of look around for what might work for you. You also need Acorn Caps, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in just a minute. And some eye screws, and I prefer to use those because the length is already short and small. They're really great for this this craft. You could use eye pins, but if you use those, you need to use jewelry cutters to trim the length after you put them in the acorn cap. So it's just a couple extra steps, but if you have those handy, then those would work also. And then you will need some string. You could also use jump rings at the end to put on the acorn caps, and then you can attach them to things. But in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to just put them on this jute string so we can make a tassel. And then you need an awl. So this is what you're going to use to poke the holes in the acorn caps. And I did try a couple different things to poke the holes, and I just found that this really does work the best. It's sharp and it's strong. So you can poke a hole in the acorn cap without a lot of effort, and that keeps the cap from splitting in the top. I did try to use a needle, like I have a embroidery needle here, like I used to sew my journal signatures, but I found that even though it's sharp, it's just, there's a tiny bit of flex to it, and it just was really hard to get the hole in them and without cracking them, because you have to really kind of push. So I really like using an awl. And if you are interested at all in making junk journals, this is something you really want to have, because this is what you will use to make the holes in your spine. If you're making, like building your own spine, you want an awl to make the holes. So this is definitely something worth having. And lastly, you want glue. So I like to use hot glue for this craft. I have not tried to use other kinds of glue, but you could try that. But the hot glue works really well, and just be careful because, it's hot, and I'm sure I'm going to burn myself when I'm doing this, because I usually do. Okay, so let me talk a minute about the acorn caps really quick. You can find these on the ground. Obviously, if you have oak trees near you, you will find these on the ground this time of year. The only thing is, if you do collect them off the ground yourself, you want to wash them like in hot soapy water and then dry them on a baking sheet in the oven for or at like 250 or something, just a low heat oven until they're completely dry, because they can have tiny little bugs in them. So what I recommend, even though I do have this kind of tree near me, and there's lots of acorn caps on the ground, I bought mine from a seller on Etsy, and there's a lot of sellers on Etsy that sell these, and they clean them and sanitize them. So just read the description box. If you find a seller that you want to buy from, just read in their description that they do wash and sanitize them, so you don't have any issues with that. And then they're nice and clean too. There's like no dirt on them, and they are ready to go. So that is really simple. And I put a link to an Etsy shop that I found on there that had a good price for these. So they come in sets of like 500, or excuse me, 50 or 100. So it is a lot, but you can use them in other crafts later also, or maybe you could split them with a friend or something. So the first thing that you want to do is, the balls are very round, obviously, because it's a ball. But acorns aren't really totally round. So I just like to squish the sides in a little bit on them. And I feel like that makes them more of like an acorn shape. So just kind of do that before you get started and before you put the acorn cap on there. So once you get the cap on, you don't have to fool with it too much. So once you do that, you're ready to poke the holes in your acorn caps. So you'll see that some of the caps have stems on them and some don't. You can use both. Sometimes the stem is a little fragile and it will break off, but you can still use the cap. So just try it out and see. And the cap, or the stem on the cap, obviously is in the center, so you would want to make your hole right next to the stem, but it's fine. You don't have to have it perfectly centered. So yeah, so all you do is twist the awl. So that's what I would recommend. Not push it straight down inside of it. You'll risk splitting the top more likely if you push it down. But if you kind of do a twisting motion, it will go through, and some will go through really easily, but some of them are harder than others. You also want to make sure you have a glass mat underneath of you, or something really thick like a phone book, so you can poke straight through it and not damage your table. And just kind of hold the cap firmly as you're poking, and it went through like that just by twisting it. So you just want to do that to however many you decide that you want to make. And this is really a pretty quick craft, actually. And this could be fun to do with kids. You just got to be careful. I mean, the awl is really sharp. The hot glue is really hot. So maybe use a different kind of glue with kids. Or maybe just give them different parts of the job, like squishing the little felt balls. Putting the little eye screws in. That sort of thing. So I occasionally will split the top of these when I'm making them. That one, the little stem came off. So that is going to happen sometimes. Yeah, that one went through. And sometimes the hole will be bigger than others, just depending on, you know, the state of the acorn cap. Like I said, some are harder than others. I'm just going to do one more. That one went right through really easily. So now you're ready to add the little eye screws. So these are really nice because it's a screw. It will go in pretty securely without having to add any adhesive to it. Now, if the hole that you made was a little bit bigger, like I feel like this one was a little bit bigger, the screw might just push straight through without like really threading. No, it is threading actually. So, but it feels a little bit loose. So, actually it doesn't. If you want a little extra insurance after you add the screw, you could add a little dab of hot glue right at the base of the screw on the inside. Just be careful because the metal will then get really hot for a couple of minutes. So you just add the little eye screw to the hole. Let's see here. Sometimes you gotta fuss with it a little to get it started. Like that one just pushed straight through. And yeah, I feel like that one's loose. Can you see how it's like moving up and down? So that one, I'm gonna add a little bit of hot glue to it just to kind of secure it there. And I'm just gonna kind of let that sit for a second. I'm gonna try really hard not to burn myself. I almost always do. So this one is going to let me twist it in. And it's really snug, which is good. You want that because then you don't have to worry about the eye screws slipping out. So once you have your eye screws in the acorn caps, you're ready to glue them onto the wool felt ball. So once it's kind of the shape that you want, you're just going to add some hot glue to the inside edge of the acorn cap. And again, just be careful. This glue gun is so old, but it still works great. So I am going with that. And you don't really need to get it down in the center, just really along that edge there. I find works just fine. And just kind of press it on there and hold it for maybe like 10 seconds or so until it really grabs. And you can kind of work on the shape of it also while you're holding it. And that's all there is to it. It's really simple to make these into little charms. And I will show you just one more. And then I'll show you how I made them into like a little tassel. You want to get kind of close to that top edge just to make sure, you know, it's not all just in the center of the cap. That way it's grabbing on to the edge right here. Make sure it's really on there. So once you have your little charms made, just, you know, leave them sit for a little while till you're sure that that hot glue is dry. And I have a couple here that I made a little while ago that are dried. And let's see, let me clear a little spot off so we can turn these into, it's a little bit of a dirty, the acorn little tiny bits will come off. That's not actually dirt from the acorns. So you can add jump rings to these and add them to a chain if you want to make some kind of little charm dangle thing. But to make them into a tassel like I have here, I like using jute string because you can make the lengths of string different lengths. Now you could do that also with if you have a chain, like jewelry chain, but this way is a lot simpler. So I'm using jute string, and I like it also because the texture is nice and it just kind of goes well with the wool felt. And I have a source for that on the supply list also, and it's a bigger roll. These ones from American Crafts, I really like the string, but they come in pretty small rolls. So, so what you're going to do is just eyeball like the lengths that you want and just make each one a little bit different. So you just make a loop and tie it off, and then we're going to add them to a binder ring. So I didn't put these extra things on the binder ring and the yarn on the supply list because this is just kind of like a little extra. I just wanted to show you how to make the acorn charms. But if you want to make this little tassel, just make a whole bunch of these little strings in all different lengths, and then take your tassel, and let me show you really quickly. You're going to start with yarn, and I'm using 7 strands of yarn on this one. I think I have 6 strands of yarn here because I think my cat ran off with one of them a little while ago. I just realized a minute ago that there was only 6. But anyway, so you just kind of even up your strands. These are 30-inch length strands, and it will make a tassel that is about 5.5 to 6 inches in length as far as these little pieces that hang down. And making the bow is actually a little bit tricky. You know, you just have to like cinch up about 6 or 7 inches with your left hand and just kind of hold that there. And then you're just making a bow, just like you tie, you know, shoelaces or something. Just make sure you're grabbing all the loops on both sides. And this part takes a little while to fuss with. to get the loops to look right and to get the lengths of the yarn even. When you tie it, the lengths will not be even on each side. It's just the nature of tying a bow like this. So you'll see like there's all different lengths, and then you just trim it. So just trim it to the length that you want. And that's what I did here. And then what you want to do is, I want to take this binder ring off so I can just show you how I added it. These are just loose 1-inch binder rings. And here are, let me just show you everything separately. So you have your yarn bow and a binder ring, and these are all the tassel or the acorn charms that I made, and they have the little jute string tied to them in all different lengths. And first you want to add, I'm trying to remember for which one I added first. I think I added the acorn charms first. So of course now I took them off and I got to get them all back on there. But you just want to just thread them right onto, you know, their loops right onto the binder ring. And then take the binder ring and just thread it through on the back of your yarn bow. Nothing special, nothing fancy. And then let me grab my planner and I'll show it to you on a planner. This is just the simplest like way to do it. And you can just, when I do my the journals that I sell, I don't just attach the binder ring directly, but just as far as this tutorial went, I wanted to make it as simple as possible and as quick as possible for you to make yourself. And then you just close it on there. I'm trying to see if I can get this on camera. So these just dangle down here like that. So hopefully you can see that okay. And it makes a little charm tassel. And it looks great for fall, Thanksgiving, you know, the season that we're in right now. So hopefully that is something simple for you guys to do and try out. I hope you can get all the materials and try it out yourself. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comment section below, and let me know if you try this out. And if you do, and if you're on Instagram, take a photo and tag me and let me see what you make. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being here and watching, and I will see you guys soon.